Chapter 1 to 7. Have you ever wondered if you are given another chance to live a life, you will do everything right? You will become powerful and do whatever you want? You will get all the beautiful girls on the land and live happily? You will achieve immortality and live forever? Your reasons for doing so? The answer is: let us put this aside. Now, my second question? If you know someone's fate and you knew that it is not a very blessed one, will you try to change it? Sure, if the person is someone you love, you will do so to stop such fate, but what if the same person denied your constant help? If the said person knew their fate all along yet he still moves forward, what will you do? Will you still stand to their side and move forwards to the ends of the world if you love such a person? Even if you have to be a coward, you will move forward with them and help them? The answer is: let us put this aside too. Now my third and last question? What will you do if such fate is forced by the will of the world itself? Will you deny such fate even if I cost you severely? Will you fight such foolish and selfish will to make your way to help your loved one even if it requires you to sacrifice yourself? The answer is: I will leave this to you. Huff asterisk huff asterisk. A man with a sword supporting himself and a depressed look upon his face and eyes void of light was panting and walking with every might in his body to reach the top of the hill. What did I do wrong? Why it turned out like this? Why I didn't stop them? Why let them fight in my watch even after knowing that it will only result in bloodshed? Why I didn't take the correct decision? What's the point of knowing something in advance if you can't change a single problem? Was that my fate to just watch everything folds in front of me? Why I didn't untie my hands and step forward to take things in my hands? These were the thoughts of the helpless person. He stopped thinking when he realized something but just give a helpless smile since the answer was simple. It was huff asterisk huff asterisk. His breathings were heavy. Why wouldn't it be? He was wounded all over his body. Many arrows were sticking out from his back and arms. He was so tired that he didn't have the strength to remove those arrows or cure his wounds. The pain was unbearable, but the pain in his heart overcame all his bearings a long time ago. He could only focus to move forward. Just like a person ready to die at any moment, his state of affairs was also similar. Images of his happy moments were circulating him. His moments with the people he loved, their bright smiles, and their praises for him as a supportive teacher, a kind uncle, and a foul lover, all were moments he spent in this new world. He couldn't even shed a tear as they dried down a long time ago. He didn't even have moments to grieve on these thoughts as time was the essence. Huff asterisk huff asterisk. His eyes were constantly shivering at the hellish view in front of him. Sky and dirt were drenched in blood, giving a crimson red yet ugly view. Countless corpses were lying everywhere wherever his sight fell. Looking for a solid ground was also a challenge for the man as corpses were present and soil was soft from blood, making it hard for him to move, but despite all of this, he didn't want to give up. Che asterisk. A bird cried in agony, desperately searching for a land to land and take a rest, but carcasses and the thick smell of blood made it impossible for the pure creature to survive as it gave up on its life and fell on the ground like adding a drop of water in the pool. Why? He was still in dilemma. What choice is left for him? Should he give up? If he gives up, will he be able to live with the guilt? As a person of foul pride, he cannot abide by this. Clang asterisk clang asterisk. Amidst such chaos, two foolish knights still had the guts to fight. They were clashing their swords without any care of the hell they made. One was a knight with blonde hair, dressed in blue armor. Its face was devoid of any expression and fighting like a puppet. You could describe this idiot as an ordinary factory worker doing his daily job. The other was in full-plate crimson armor and clashing sword with the blue knight. His sword was also red, radiating the blood around his surroundings. However, the knight in red was in an insane rage of deep hatred and abomination, as anyone could tell from his talking with the knight in blue. The wounded man, who was struggling to walk, gritted his teeth and opened his mouth to make them stop at any cost. Stop! His voice was not too loud yet at the environment with dead silence. Those foolish knights should have heard him, but those foolish knights seemed to have made a barrier around them that no one shall interfere. Stop, arg! The wounded man cried again, but his efforts were trashed by those foolish knights, by ignoring his call. Please! Stop! Tears started to fall from his eyes again as he just wanted to put an end to this endless slaughter. He knew what was going on and what would happen next, yet he was so helpless and tried to stop them, but he didn't want to give up. If he gives up here, then he will die from inside even if his body survives. Top. None of his cries could be heard. No, they clearly hurt him but refused to put down their sword or hatred for even a second in fear that the other will use this chance to deliver the final blow. Knight in red finally knocked the sword of the knight in blue and then asking for reasons to the knight in the blue. No. The man knew where the battle was heading, yet he was utterly helpless. The knight in blue picked up a silver lance in a spiral shape and came face to face with the knight in red to deliver the final blow. No. Stop. The wounded man widened his eyes and cried for one last time and but. Splash asterisk. Blood flew in the sky. This is a good series, I exclaimed after completing the FGO Babylonia anime. Just like any other soon-to-be Ice Skate protagonist with messed past, I was also an anime fan and recently I completed all the anime series of Type Moon. And just like any other weeb, I fell in love with Arthurian Pendragon. Her character was so deep that I can't help it. There were also some notable elements like certain Sundaras thighs and certain Derridere's bobs, but that is beside the point. I also like the lore of singularities of FGO, but compared to original work, they certainly lack creativity. I also like some male characters like Karna from Apocrypha and Chiron. Overall I like the works from Type Moon if you ignore the fuck asterisk at up the fate of their characters. This is, good ending of my life too. I sighed and said. Bald head and connected to electronic devices, I really hate this kind of death. Yes, I was a patient of cancer and as a sage man near death's door, I knew my time was right getting ended. I was 17 years old English with ordinary Western features, but bald. The next day was another day of surgery, but I knew that I won't last, neither do I wanted to continue those painful surgeries. After deleting my browser history and some unique anime on my phone, I put my phone on the side table and laid down on my bed looking at dim ceiling. As far as I know, this hospital room was always been my home since I became a victim. I had a family of parents and 2 older siblings, but they cared for me. Why wouldn't they, since I was a person with good cooking skills and a writer of some books? Certainly, I didn't need money, so I was happy to be used this way. Some friends, but no real friends, and obviously no girlfriend, since who wants a dead dick nowadays? I started to sing a lullaby hoping for me to sleep one final time and passing away peacefully. I always dreamed of dying like a hero, like protecting someone or something precious to me. Foolish, right? But guess what? I don't care about your opinions who like to read to move puny dicks by imagining someone. Buzz asterisk. My phone vibrated and for sake of curiosity, I picked up the phone only to see a browser notification of some sort of ad. I hate ads. Fuck asterisk YouTube too. I was about to throw my iPhone 11 on the wall with the hope of breaking it, but my eyes fell on the said ad, which was about some kind of anime survey. As a weeb, I had to click on it. It was some kind of anime survey where they asked some kind of question. In which legend you want to be reborn? I typed Arthurian legend since as an English fellow, I had to go for it. I could also go for Indian or Japanese lore, but nah. Knights were my fetish. What type of anime weapon you would like to use? Very easy, King's Chastiefol. I could also choose other weapons, but why would I? It was one of the most versatile weapons in the fictional world as far as I know. Congratulations for winning the lottery, for getting another chance and become strong in another world. Due to luck EX, you will be given some privileges as soon as you get there. I saw a notification and just like another soon-to-be Ice Guy protagonist, I didn't expect anything and neither anything happened. There was only one notification and that's all. I said goodbye to the world and went to my final slumber. 5th century, the island of Britain. This country was passing agitated times. The Saxons, foreigners that crossed the seas, were demanding more lands. Britain was an island ruled by a king and royal families. There were unresolved conflicts between the families and some of them were cooperating with invaders. In addition to all this mess, there was a king named Vortigern, the usurper. Born in Britain, had a force of will, incarnated in a white dragon, focused in Britain's parish. You could also call him Demon Dragon King for the later part of the story. He first defeated Uther Pendragon, the greatest king of Britain, and then conquered half of Britain. He was also helping the invaders in conquering/destroying Britain. Uther Pendragon, the little brother of Vortigern, after being defeated, disappeared from the sights of people. And so Britain entered the Age of Darkness. At least that was the point of view of most Britons. You will ask, how the hell above BS related to the story? The answer is obvious, your MC is reincarnated in this time and age. Huff asterisk huff asterisk. A boy could be seen running in a thick forest wearing a hood. After looking back a couple of times, he stopped and calmed himself down. He removed his hood, that revealing a light blonde hair boy around 10 years old. This is me, your MC, me. Now on to what the hell happened to me. I woke up in a wooden hut near a down. I received the memory of my previous life as well as my current self. Yep, I am the reincarnated guy. My name is Einar Sirius. Appearance-wise, I possess angelic features, such as pale blonde hair that is almost white, blue eyes, and a pale Caucasian complexion. Age 13, but due to my unique bloodline, I look like a 9 to 10 years old child. My mother, who was a fae in disguise, passed away, leaving a single book and letter about my origin. I am half fae and half human. My father passed away while I was little, while my mother left me recently, saying that her time in the mortal world has come to an end. Honestly, it doesn't matter. The letter contained the direction of a certain place where I would learn something new. The book was most likely some kind of weapon to make me op, but I doubt that it is of any use for the current me. Now the reason why I was running. I was in a town that came under the Saxons now. When a certain mage announced the prophecy of a certain child who will be king of Britons, Vortigern immediately issued the order to eliminate this threat, and now Britons under his rules were living like animals. On the same day, some of those knights under Vortigern came to the town in search of people of the noble bloodline. I naturally had to escape, since even if I am not a noble, my super cute otherworldly features can't remain unnoticed. Shoot thud. Just when I was taking a break from my pursuers, an arrow was shot near me, missing my head. Unluckily, some poachers noticed me and my face, and now I was on the run. This was only the first day of my reincarnation journey, and I was already chased by abductors, but luckily this body didn't come with cons. There are certain pros that I am going to use to defend myself and find the hell of a lake that I have to go. I ran for some more time before stopping at the area 7 diameters wide, surrounded by trees. It was the place where I have to trap all the poachers so that they won't follow me anymore. I cut my index finger and drew a magic circle with my blood. I gritted my teeth as it was very painful, since this body was not used to this kind of stuff. Another reason was that I was only a child. Anyway, I drew the same magic circles to 4 more trees, then pour some more blood in the center of the array. I also added some of my tears in the blood for the final part. I started to feel weak, since it was the first time that I was using this magic, but it was the only magic that this body knew before. I then bent down on my one knee and tightly closed my palms, and then started chanting. Oh, will of the forest, this one of the noble blood of nature, and require your help as painful wish. Answer my call, cry of the fae. I started to feel weak, then fell on the floor due to loss of blood and mana. This spell was taught to me by the mother of this body. This spell could only be used by a fae, and since I am half fae, I also have the affinity to use fairy magic. Roars asterisk. I started to hear many cries of different animals, and knew that my plan was a success. I smiled and gathered my strength to escape, since this spell is a double-edged sword. It attracts wild animals, but also some demonic/phantasmal beasts, and they feast on fairies. I ran for a while, before stopping at a certain distance. I chanted a healing spell on my finger on my way to stop the bleeding, and then dropped to the ground. I also stopped hearing the cries of my pursuers and animal tearing flesh after heading all the way even here. I felt a little bad, since it was my first time taking, not directly, human lives, but that was inevitable since I have to survive for any cost. That was intense. It was started to get dark, so without any care for anything, I closed my eyes to take my first rest in this new world. On the next day, I opened my eyes due to soft rays of light falling on my face. I rubbed my eyes and yawned. I didn't know that sleeping in a bare forest was this warming. Now that I was relaxed, I took my time to examine the situation around me. And I could only describe the scenery surrounding me in one word. Beautiful. The soft light was somehow touching my face after being filtered with green leaves. I was on dirt, but there was not a since insect. Trees were also shaped differently, since they were giving me the feeling of welcoming me. Air was also fresh in this forest, so that it could even heal all your worries. The atmosphere was purer in this era as compared to my previous world, but the air present in the forest was very different from the air last night. It was like a totally different world. It was not making sense, but I was too tired mentally to question everything. I sighed and then took out the book that I was given by my mother. It was a book with silver linings, and a name was engraved on its cover. Chastiefol? What the hell? I knew that I was iced with the weapon that I chose, but it was a spear, not a book. A quill was also attached to the cover. Without waiting any further, I opened the book, but it was blank? Yes. It was blank. Not a single thing was written on it. I then took out the quill from the side of the book to write something. Just as the quill touched the page of the book, a bright light emitted from the book, and a text appeared on the page. Chastiefol greets you. Will you like to record your experience in the book of Chastiefol? I was confused by the text, but I didn't feel anything bad from the book and I wrote. Yes. The light emitted again and new text appeared. Book of Chastiefol has now been bound to a new owner. I didn't get a single thing from what was happening, so I started to write questions and get answers from the book. What do I get writing my experience? Host will get experience points based on the deeds of your experience or how much it affects this era. Okay, I didn't get a single shit book was saying. Tell me all about this book. Very well. This is called the Book of Chastiefol and it could only be used by a fae. Experience points will be earned based on the type of experience you would write. Experience points could be used to exchange skills and invest in the book to acquire various forms of Chastiefol. There are several sections in this book. Stats. It tells you your current stats about your physical strength. Weapons. These are various forms of Chastiefol that you could wield in combat or for support. Skills. Various skills that you already possess are recorded here. These skills can be upgraded. Magic. Various complex magic can be recorded here for immediate use. These magic spells required a certain amount of mana and cool down for reuse. Whoa! This is so much better, but I have to work hard for it. I then decided to check the book. On the second page, under the header of stats, my stats were written. Stats. Name Einar Sirius. Race, human/fae. Age, 13. Physique. Strength, E. Mana, A+++. Endurance, E. Agility, D+. Luck, EX. I blinked several times before nodding in satisfaction. I was weak, so my stats were given, but even so my mana and luck were on the top. Maybe because of my fairy bloodline and the luck given to me by that survey. On the next page, it was about weapon, but it was locked. Weapons, locked. Please use 1000 experience points to unlock this section. Welp, I expected some nerfing, so it was given. Then onto the skills page. Skills. Cooking A. Anthology writing B. Anthology telling B. Charm A+. Jokes C. Coding D. And several minor skills. I knew that my culinary skills were top tier, but since all the skills were ranked in alphabets, I was curious as to how they were measured. Ranks are determined from the quality of anything. It goes from E, lowest, to A, highest. F refers to anything broken or unusable to the host. EX is a rank that could not be determined. Okay, that is enough. I then moved to magic page, but it was black. Set magic circles and spells on this page to cast spells immediately. Seems like I have to use a magic circle or make spells in this section. First I need to find a shelter. I thought as I have to get up and search nearest town village to assess my location. I have already given on the map that was made in the letter since it was just pointing at the forest. I can't remain here as I have to cross the border and go to territories still ruled by Britons. I got up from my place, packed my things, and was about to walk when I smelled the scent of pure water. I walked further and stopped when a beautiful lake came to my view. Wow! It was the most beautiful place that I had seen. Water was so pure that you can see your face crystal clear. Welp! Time to take my beauty bath, I said, and then removed my clothes, placing them under the tree. Yep, this body will attract a lot of attention. Now that I take a close look at my bare naked body, I was fair and smooth. Except for magic practice, I hardly moved from the house, so I was still small and pure. The only problem was that I was a midget. Ah, my little Excalibur, I said, swinging my dick in front of the lake when I heard a voice. At this point, it is Clyburn. I heard a feminine voice and immediately took my guard. Who? A body emerged from the lake, forming a projection of a beautiful lady. I am called Lady of the Lake, boy. She introduced herself, but then her demeanor changed into a hostile one. Now I will ask you this, how do you know the existence of Excalibur, boy? I didn't know what I did wrong, but the situation turned bad. Boy, tell me, how do you know about the existence of Excalibur? Though the weather was warm, I could feel coldness and chill on my spine. I just said it as a joke, but I didn't know the consequences. Hold up. I then realized why she was curious. I knew that I was in the medieval era, Arthurian legend in particular, and if my guess is correct, then the lady could be that famous Lady of the Lake who bestowed legendary sword to King Arthur. There were various legends of King Arthur where he also pulls out such a sword from the slab to become the king. No wonder she was showing hostility towards me when I mentioned Excalibur, since that sword hadn't appeared yet. So she is the Lady of the Lake? She had a beautiful ladylike appearance, but she was materializing like water. She was also the first supernatural being I encountered, so I was excited to see the real deal for the first time, but for now, I have to explain this misunderstanding. I am sorry, Lady of the Lake Sama, but it was just a legend that I heard in my dreams. And I will use Japanese honorifics since I used to write this way. I decided to make super cool BS. Dreams? Yes, I see dreams where I saw various legends all around the world, whether in the future or past. I see. She started to think. But it was just my dream, it's not always true. They are just stories that resemble the actual legend. Please forgive me if I have offended you. I bowed my head. No need to apologize, my child. I see that you are half fae, my kin, so you are like my fellow kin. You also have some kind of clairvoyance, like that half incubus. She was going on and on where I was confused. Ahem, how about this, child? Would you like to come with me? I felt weird and took some distance. Jesus, I should find a parent or guardian who could protect me from hungry wolves. Wait. I mean, you shouldn't have a place to stay, right? As a fairy myself, I could take care of you and teach you various things about magic to culture. What do you say? I accept your proposal. I smiled. I mean, what could I possibly ask more when the legendary fairy herself was offering hospitality to teach me? But first, you should wear something. Oh right. I realized that I was talking to her but naked, well we both were, but she was a different matter. Because I was used to being seen naked by nurses since I was a patient, I kind of lost a sense of shame. I wore my clothes and picked my book. She asked me to enter the water, and just as I set foot on the water, the scenery in front of me changed in similar view except for a big house and a pretty lady standing and waving her hand. She had silver shining hair and blue eyes, wearing a simple yet exquisite dress, looking very beautiful. Come in, she said, and then we went to her house. It was a big house made of bricks, with many artifacts and materials that resemble the house of a witch. I started to feel a little stiff since I don't want someone to eat me this early, as I have to be on the dominant side. No need to be a nervous child. It is the second time that I am taking care of a human child. She smiled and offered me a seat. Who is the first one? Oh, I am sure you will meet him soon. She smiled and then became serious. Now, first tell me your name and then your full story. And the interrogation begins. I told her my name and my origin and what happened on my way here. I see, Einar. Fae can't conceive a child with humans, so your mother must have exhausted her mana and ascended to upper realm. She muttered while thinking out loud. I really didn't care since, for me, everyone in this world was complete strangers. Heck, she was the first person I was having a proper conversation with. Let me introduce myself again. I am a fairy, enchantress, sage, but my real name is Vivian. She pulled her skirt like a noble lady, then smiled and clapped her hands, and from now on, I will be your mother. Wait, what? Of course. Do I have any say? Do you? I didn't know when things escalated to this point, but I was happy with that. I sighed and smiled. It was better than nothing. I also told her about my magic book, and for a second I saw a shocked face, but she immediately composed herself. Don't expose this book to anyone. Only you should explore its contents. Not even me. She was a sensible person. I would be wary if she insisted on investigating my book more. Growl asterisk. Both of us heard a loud sound that came from my belly. Era, I will fetch you something. My dear son must be hungry. She arrayed and then went to the kitchen only to bring cooked vegetables. Einar-chan has to hunt himself for the meat. That's what she told me. Well, I didn't complain much since I was a veggie person and used to eat meat 3 days a week. Anyway, it was delicious, but I added some seasoning to the dish, making it tastier. Fairies indeed have good senses. Well, I wanted to correct her since I inherited this talent from my previous self, but seeing her happily eating the seasoned dish that I made, I didn't want to foul the mood. After the meal, since I was a little sleepy, she guided me to my new room. It was a normal-looking room with a bed the size of an average adult and a study desk. There was also some other necessary furniture for daily use. I wonder what kind of person she raised before me. Fufu, take some time to relax. Tomorrow, I will start your magic training, she said and then kissed my forehead before leaving the room. I am safe here, right? I shook my head from dangerous thoughts and jumped on the bed. This is great. How long was it that I relaxed on a normal bed? Probably very long if you cut hospital bed. I then opened my eyes and saw the book of Chastiefol on the desk. I then moved to the study desk with the book and pulled out the quill to write. It was time to explore the book more. I opened the first page of the book. Will you like to record your experience in the book of Chastiefol? I was greeted with the same text. Okay, let's do this. I then started to write my experience of day 1 when I escaped from the town and was followed by poachers. How I defeated poachers using magic and slept in the forest. For successfully escaping from pursuers and taking them down, you earned 100 experience points. That was pretty low. Then what about today? I then wrote my experience meeting with Vivian and how I was adopted by her. For successfully meeting and recognized by Lady of the Lake, you earned 500 experience points. That was awesome. It was far better than my previous points. What is the basis of earning EPs? Host will earn experience points based on the deed of experience. That was not a complete answer but at least satisfactory. I then decided to write my experience of my previous life, but it was erased immediately. Experience shall be true of the host's existing life. It means that I can only write the experience of what I encountered in this life. What's more, I have no idea the basis of experience points at all. Anyway, after taking some rest I came out of the room and saw Vivian writing something. Einarchon, come here. I will show you my enchantment magic. She smiled and gave me a thin stick and asked me to break it. I easily broke it and she gave me another stick after casting some kind of spell. I tried to break, but it was hard as metal. It is called enchantment magic. Enchantment is the process of changing the property of any kind of object. For example, as you can see, even a wooden stick can be as strong as iron. Isn't that amazing? I nodded with stars in my eyes. It could change so many things if this process is to bring in the modern era. But there is more to it. As a fairy, I could also add the holy attribute in the object. She said then the stick in her hand started to glow with golden radiance. Holy cow, I mean it is so awesome. I was petrified that I almost used the dirty word but Vivian ignored it as she seemed happy to show me tricks. Yeah, it is. I sucked at enchantment magic first until I learned from that silver scumbag. She said thinking out loud. Era, you didn't hear anything. I nodded and play along with her. I take it back, her mouth was as foul as me when I am pissed. I didn't know to whom she was cursing but I didn't care since she won't be going to answer me anyway. And so my magic training started at that time. First thing I learned that I have an unnatural amount of mana even from Vivian's perspective. She told me that I have good potential as a mage so I should focus on magic more. Mana here is the source of magic that you use to cast spells. Vivian also knows many kinds of magic but she excels at 2 types of magic, enchantment and sealing magic. Enchantment follows some basic steps like coding. First, you have to observe the said object you want to enchant, the level and property of enchantment, and then finally enchantment so to get the result. However, it is a temporary method as you have to seal the enchantment to the object or its effect will wear off. That's what makes enchantment so fascinating as it could permanently alter the property of anything. Of course, there are also some restrictions like if you pour more mana than it requires, then it will break. Sealing magic is more complex than enchantment magic as it required complicated formulas. In short, the more advanced enchantment is, the more complicated formula it requires to seal the enchantment. Apart from magic, I also learned some basic combat techniques. Swordsmanship was the basic practice in the medieval era, so she thought of me as such and soon realized that I was not made for one. Yes, because I was still a 10-years-old midget and as half my strength for direct combat sucks. But even then, I didn't want to give up. I chose this era so that I could fight like a knight. She comforted me saying that I had the strength of 13-years-old kid so I shouldn't worry about my close-range combat. And that really hurt. What does she mean that I had the strength of 13 years old kid? I was freaking 13. It's just that as long a lifespan as a half-fae, I will age rather slow. Well, long longevity is a bonus, but what if I fell in love with a girl and I didn't grow at that time? And instead of waiting for me, what if she ends up marrying someone? It will be disastrous. I sighed and exhaled cold air that took the shape of a flag. I could only work hard for the moment. I also learned many things about Vivian and fairies. The place where she lived is a mirror world similar to humans except that only fairies live here, but I had never seen any other fairy other than her for that entire time and I knew the answer: she was a shut-in. How old was she? I once asked her about age and made a joke about old women who went to plastic surgeries only to look young only for me to wake up the next day. A lesson about woman's age. I also can't explore the fairy world since a mortal can't enter the land with a physical appearance. She constructed a separate reality for mortals to spend time so that she could raise children. Also, the lake from where she goes to the human world doesn't exist on the human world map. Only those she recognizes or people with a pure heart can enter this place. Ei-chan, do you have a moment? She called me when I was reading a book that I wrote from my previous life. Yeah, I sold my otherworldly BS pretty good. Yes, mother? Yeah, I have to call her mother since I know how scary Era woman can be. Do you know your worst time or something that could make anyone remember nightmares? I didn't know why she was asking, but I end up nodding since I knew some shit that I still want to forget. I think sealing magic will come into use. Let me see. She said, and then I held her hand. She likes to watch Disney movies about fairy tales through my mindscape, so if I have to let her see something new, we have to connect our minds link by holding hands. There was one other method, but none of us want to use that method. Koi wa shiyu yo kisa suru mayanai. Koi wa shiyu yomi wa mitsa meet. Koi wa dakashimit. I heard the sound, but I didn't look at the boy riding bicycle and let Vivian watch the whole deal. I think that's enough. She started to panic, but I didn't answer and let her see the whole series. Yeah, did I tell you that she was kind of sadist when it comes to punishments? You reap what you sow, mother. After we came to reality, she ran to toilet and after some time of exercise, she came back with an ice bag on her head and pale complexion looking pissed. You have to complete the task given to you by your mother, Vivian. That's what you said. I said, whistling Smash Mouth's All-Star. She stared at me for a few seconds before she sighed and spoke. Listen, Einar, I am going to place a seal to your mindscape to protect you for certain mage invading your memories. Mother, who is this person? Merlin. Stats. Name, Einar Sirius. Race, human/fae. Age, 14. Physique. Strength, E. Mana, A+++. Endurance, E++. Agility, D++. Luck, EX. Some wild chickens were roaming in the forest when an arrow pierced one of them. I came and picked the chicken. Rest in peace. I prayed for the poor creature, then took it to my campsite. After coming to the campsite, I cleaned the chicken before putting it in the new section of my book, storage. Yes, just like some famous ice skate MCs, I also unlocked a mini portable space where I could store anything. Before going home, I sat on my campsite and opened the book. It has been a year and I didn't notice. A year has passed and I didn't even notice. I have become proficient in enchantment magic and sealing magic to the point that I can make a holy sword on my own. Let's see. I then wrote my experience of the day on my book of Chastiefol. You have earned 10 experience points. Yeah, it was still better than nothing. Making experience was harder than I thought. I have to record something new or noteworthy to get more experience points, or I would get this kind of points. Finally, I was able to stack 1000 EPs to unlock weapons. The reason why I took this long was that I didn't have any adventures over the past year since I spent all my time with Vivian with little to no interactions with the outside world. I went to my previous town, but because of my angelic features, I end up being targeted again. Being cute is a pain in the ass. And so I become fellow shut-in following the footsteps of my mother. Without waiting any further, I put those points to unlock weapons. Congratulations for unlocking the weapon section. You have been awarded Chastiefol Spear. I saw the text and then pages flipped automatically before it stopped flipping. A long spear was drawn on the page with the description. Form 1, Chastiefol Spear. A long spear made from the Tree of Life. It can withstand any kind of element while the holy element being the dominant side. Side ability, levitation, locked. Ability bestows you to levitate Chastiefol at will. Requires 1,200 experience points to unlock it. This is BS. I thought that I will finally get to use Chastiefol like king, but I didn't expect another BS requirement. Hold on. If I remember correctly, then levitating objects was king's own ability, not Chastiefol's. That means that it is a boon. I was also a big fan of Seven Deadly Sins anime and watched the whole series. I knew that how king used his weapon and how many forms it has. How can I get the ability of levitation? I asked the book. Host can acquire this ability for 2,000 experience points with the additional cost of making you pure fairy and sacrificing your human side. No thanks. It was the last thing I want. Being a fairy has many good points like longevity, no need for hunger or sleep, and access to the fairy realm, but the downside is that you can't be exposed to the public as they will all hunt you down. They not only include humans, but all sorts of other creatures too. The worst part is that you will stop aging, making physical growth even slower. I decided to grind more points to unlock this sub-ability of the spear. I clicked on the page and then the book transformed into a long spear. Damn, it is hard. It was harder than steel, without any kind of enchantment. It was also not very heavy as I could easily carry it. Swing asterisk. It is better than swords made by mother. I have used some swords that Vivian made for me, but as expected I am a spear guy, so I like to use a spear. Alright, that's enough. I have to get home or mother would come out to the human world with a storm. I was spending time in the forest for 5 days, and if I wait for one more day then Vivian would come out and it would be a disaster for the poor animals of the forest. I swung the spear several times before reverting it in the book again. Good point was that it didn't cost anything for the period of use. Let's see how much I have grown. I took out measuring tape to measure my height. 140 centimeters, huh? It is better than 138 centimeters a year ago. I hope that I grow big soon and confess to a girl and marry. I didn't want to remain Shota my entire youth. Vivian always comforted me by giving lap pillows that I will have time to have a wife in the future, probably in the next 60 years. I asked, isn't that called pedophile? She told me that Merlin fools around with girls all the time even after being older than 100 years old along with some other supernatural creatures. I didn't want to discuss Merlin with her since she became hostile and foul-mouthed whenever he was being mentioned. I guessed if she was one of his charm's victims, but I didn't want to anger her by asking that. Let's get going. I packed my stuff and then started walking towards the lake. Once there I came to the reverse side and opened the door to see a new guest. Era Ei-chan is here. Vivian said, waving her hand before asking me to greet a new guest. Ei-chan, meet Merlin, the sage and court mage of King Uther Pendragon. She pointed at a man with a silver robe and hair with a bewitching fair face complexion. He resembled a lot with FGO Merlin, the series I watched last time. Hi little boy. I heard a lot about you from your mother. It's good to see a fellow half-breed. He waved his hand. Thank you Merlin-sama. I bowed my head with respect. Though Vivian hates Merlin, she also respects him the most as he taught making kinds of magic to her. He indeed has some kind of charm in him. Not only his face, but his aura was also very pure and gentle. But why do I felt like punching him? I had a sudden urge to punch him but controlled my emotions. One of Faye's drawbacks is that you could get easily carried away with your emotions, you should have great control over them. Thanks to my human blood this side effect was nullified, but it still existed. My what an honest kid. Hearing about you for 3 days paid off. He is here for 3 days? I looked at mother who averted her eyes with a whistle before asking me to cook something, but I stopped her since today's menu was chicken and she sucked at cooking meat. After parting with Merlin, I went to the kitchen to cook. 30 minutes later. This is the best chicken dish that I have ever eaten, Merlin said, enjoying the chicken leg. Not one but two. Now I know why mother seemed pissed, as he was kind of an innocent monster. Because you don't need to eat food. Mother rolled her eyes. Yes, he feasts upon dreams of humans to love humans and understands them. Mother told me many of his scummy side but also his gentle side. He loves humans and wants to understand them. She also mentioned that he raised many kings of Britain for many years. After the meal, we came to the living room to discuss something serious. Einar, it is time for to apart. Mother said with a serious tone, it is time to set foot in the real world and make your adventures. You will go with Merlin-sama to explore the human world. At that point my heart clenched and I ran to my room. In my whole life, I was always being mature in the sense that I didn't felt any kind of negative emotion. Being a weak person in my previous life, I never expect anything from others, even from my parents. I was always being grateful to them even after being reminded of dead weight in my childhood and a money bank in my youth. Even my siblings felt thankful towards me as I also guided them in case of hard times. I didn't really get anything in return, and neither did I want anything but a little care. I never cried much even after the painful time of my life, maintaining a calm smile to rest assured my family. After coming into this world, I felt warm and independent. There was no one who I have to pay something and someone sticking its leg in my cause. I was independent. When I met Vivian, I was anxious since she was not human, but she trained me and loved me more than the mother of my previous life. I was happy with her, and when it came to leaving her, I was heartbroken. Ei-chan, this is not a permanent farewell. You can come to meet me in the future. Because of onions, my eyes were teary, so Vivian was comforting me by hugging my face in her bosom and caressing my head affectionately. Perhaps next time, you may bring a girl with you. Even if you didn't find a girl, your mother is always here for my Einar-chan. I didn't answer. I took the last part positively without any lewd thoughts. What do you want me to do in the human world? I didn't know the exact purpose of sending me with Merlin, but her decision always carries reasons. I want you to follow your heart, Einar. You have become a strong mage, but there are tons of things that you have to learn. Merlin is a far better mage than me, and he will teach you many things. His actions may sound contrary to human beliefs, but he loves human and always think of their future. For his annoying part, you could kick him sometimes, but remember to respect him. She said with thumbs up. Einar, you will face situations where you will hesitate to take decisions. You may even regret being a coward, a liar, and a killer, but you must move forward for your amendments. Remember, life is full of options until you're very deaf. When the time of final decision is upon you and you have to decide without any second, go for the part that you seemed fit and held your head high that you have no regrets. She gave me the most heroic speech of my life. Those were very encouraging words. I can't help but admire her even more. Thanks, Mother. I am proud to be your son. I won't let you down. I smiled and we hugged each other for one final time. Vivian POV. How long was it that I said those words? Probably not very long, as the concept of time didn't really matter for me. One time when a human was talking to me, and the other day, I have to pray for their souls. That's how it goes for me. When I first encountered Einar, I didn't expect much from him, but when I heard the word Excalibur, I was a little shocked. Upon asking, he told me that he heard or saw stories in his dreams, so he knew that there is a sword named Excalibur that will be wielded by King Arthur in the future. I was shocked to hear him mentioning the exact prophecy of Merlin. I decided that I have to take away this kid and ask him about the other legends, but upon closing inspection, I felt the same kind of mana that fairies have, and when I heard his story, my heart immediately melted and I decided to become his mother. Sure, I know that he was telling me half-truth, but I didn't care. I have raised a human child before, so raising one again was not hard. I also have to admit that he was the cutest thing I have ever seen. Light blonde hair and blue eyes with such angelic features, I have to admit that half-breeds really get on top with their looks. His body was also fair and pure, so I knew that only he will be a sheep with wolves around him, so only I could protect him. I also realized that he has much more mana than any other normal human. Even as a fairy standard, he has quality mana as a child. He is also a very sharp child, being able to process the complex magic related to enchantment and seals. The only problem with him is that he seems always concerned about his height. I think that part is what makes him more human, that I am happy about. Not because of height, but because he has a dream to fall in love with a girl and live a life protecting her. It was a noble dream, unlike some men who only know how to fool around and not taking care of responsibility. And soon I realized 3 things. One is that the story that Einar talks about never mentioned the destruction of Britain and King Arthur. There were some variations, but I saw hope. 2, I was halting Einar's growth. It will soon be time that he has to set foot to discover new possibilities. It's okay, I guess, as it is part of human evolution, such magnificent creatures, you could only admire them. Finally, I noticed a new light in Einar. Possibly he could change the fate of that fateful one. Perhaps next time he would come to return the sword, that fateful one would be happy. It was then I decided. So you want me to train your son? Merlin asked with a wary smile. Oh, I liked his smile in the past, but I only want to crush his face. Yes. He is a prodigy in magic, and not to mention his foresight. He also has clairvoyance, much like you, Merlin. Thank goodness he didn't deny immediately, or I have to use Excalibur as bait. Yes, very well, but I will still go the same route. Are you sure you want to send him to me? He asked with a serious tone, unlike his jolly way. Affirmative. I know that he will face all kinds of challenges, but it is the only way that he will become strong truly. I said, then looked at the door where he will come. He will save them, I know it. Merlin and Fate knew about Britain's destruction and Artoria's demise that he even told Artoria about and moved forward and guided her much like Dumbledore or All Might, but he soon realized his mistakes that he never sympathized with them. I will write his true nature in future. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kayashin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my P at Trian. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Ben Phillips.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.